Hey guys, I'm here with my friend Dustin Collier, and we actually met very fortuitously, I'd say, about 6 months or so ago.
Yeah.
So as a realtor, and again, this has nothing to do with real estate, but as a realtor, I got an internet lead and ended up meeting Dustin and his wife Demi, and actually your father at a house. It was snowing out, and we ended up kind of hitting it off, and we actually just closed on this house that we're doing this interview in, and it's an awesome house and lovely kitchen. I'm super excited for these guys because it was kind of a twisted, winding road to get here, but we ended up getting them in a great house. And Dustin's got a killer story, and honestly, I was really hoping that I could convince him to do one of these black and white conversations, because not only is Dustin black, but he's also a police officer. And it's kind of, and then he's got a crazy story about like race and growing up, and so we'll jump into that. But I was very fortunate because Dustin brought it up to me after seeing a couple of the videos that we've been posting on these conversations. So my real hope is that these conversations are hitting people who need their eyeballs on them, and hopefully they're resonating with some of y'all, because this conversation shouldn't just end because it was a month ago that the George Floyd incident happened, or because the Ahmaud Arbery thing was months ago, right? This stuff needs to continue to be in the foresight of our minds, and for us to, I think, move the dial forward, these are important conversations to have. So, Dustin, tell me a little bit about yourself. Tell me a little about kind of where you come from, your family, things you like to do.
My dad is in the military, was in the military, and I was born overseas in England. And then we came over here to the States, and I lived in Texas, Arizona, and then Ohio finally in 2000. And my mom and dad met in Ohio originally, so we just came back to the place where they came from, and most of their family lives here as well.
Nice.
A little bit about me. I'm married. My wife is Demi. She's from the Netherlands. Yeah, she's a white woman. I actually am a police officer here in Central Ohio, and I love it. I just love helping the community, helping people, and it really helps to talk to people face to face.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I'm glad to be talking with people face to face. With all this coronavirus stuff going on, I have to ask permission with each person that we talk to. Is it cool if we're like this close? So, icebreaker time.
Okay.
What's your favorite meal to cook?
I discussed this with my wife, and she said, whatever she cooks is my favorite meal to make, because I don't make anything.
You don't make a single thing? Throw it back to like your bachelor days when you had to make, was it ramen? What was it?
I didn't even make ramen. I make breakfast, so I make a good omelet and pancakes, but Demi doesn't really like breakfast food, so.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, it's early right now. I know you don't have your tools here. They literally just closed on this house, but man, I'll come over. I'll eat some of that stuff. So you mentioned that your dad was in the military and your parents met here in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what you said?
That's correct.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but our conversation previously was that I've met your dad, a black man,
Mm-hmm.
and your mom is
White. Yep.
Your mom's white. Tell me, being the product of an interracial marriage, what your childhood was like, or how maybe it was different from mine.
Okay. I wouldn't say it was any different from yours. Being younger, I was ignorant to racism. I don't know, I didn't really see it until I was older, until I got to high school. But yeah, it was about the same average, I would say. I didn't see any differences. My mom and dad have stories, and after growing up, you hear those stories with my grandparents, and my mom's side's white, so going over their house, and then my dad's side and going over their house. So it's a little different there, but I think mostly high school was when it really, for me, really racism really kicked in. So my black friends would refer to me as mixed, and then my white friends refer to me as black, and neither culture wanted to name me black or white, so I was just my own label, just mixed, I guess.
So how did that make, I mean, as a child or as a kid in high school, we're all a little fragile, you know? Like, what was that, what'd that do to your psyche, I guess?
You always get the white people like, you talk white, like, and I'm like, what does that mean? That's when you're like, okay, I don't know that. Do you guys hold like a certain culture on the way that I talk? I don't know. It's just weird to me when they say you talk white. My black friends kind of just like, you're a nerd, kind of like you're too smart sort of thing. It didn't hold me to any, I mean, I didn't feel anything about it. I just kept doing the same thing I did, you know, getting good grades and playing sports in high school. So it didn't change me as much as people think it does.
All right. You're married to a white woman, Demi.
Yes, I am.
She's awesome. And has that caused any interesting experiences?
We get the occasional looks when we walk into a store. Nobody comes up to us or says anything. I think it's common over there in the Netherlands than it is here, and it's actually starting to go away. But when I was younger, I dated white women still. Not just because it was my preference, I've dated the rainbow, but when I was younger, you get the harsher looks, but now it's a little more different. I don't get them anymore, and I don't get like the whispers to like everybody sitting there going like this when we walk by or anything like that. So we're pretty good now.
Cool. You dated the rainbow.
I dated the rainbow. Don't tell Timmy.
All right. All right. So this is the meat of the conversation and what I'm really excited about. So you're a police officer.
Yes.
Here in Central Ohio. What was your reaction to George Floyd? And I want to ask it two prongs. So what was your reaction as a black man? And then what was your reaction as a police officer? Are the two the same?
Growing up, I didn't want to be, I didn't know I was going to be a police officer, but now that I have all this training, I think I just see myself just as, you know, a black police officer. I'd say my first reaction when I first saw the video was at work. Actually, they showed it in briefing. Was, you know, that's wrong. First of all, we're not trained to do that, and as a black man, I mean, you saw the guy, you saw his face, and he was kind of just like ignoring everybody, ignoring the guy saying, "I can't breathe." Yeah, so overall, yeah, we don't train that, and that was wrong. My whole department discussed that and definitely didn't meet our training requirements. It's very hard to see if you watch. I don't know how many times you watched it. I kind of watched it over and over. It's very hard. It's very hard to see that happen to somebody that you were supposed to have as your colleague, as a black man on the police force.
So you've mentioned training a couple times. What training do you go through? And I think this conversation is interesting because we on the outside looking at police officers, you hear a lot of negative about the police. The police are bad, and this isn't just an isolated incident. They're all like this. I've heard that. Versus people that I think understand that not every police officer is bad. But what training do you go through that might prevent something or reduce the odds of something like this happening?
So during training, when we do put some hands on a suspect or anything and we put them to the ground, we have certain requirements where you stay away from neck, face area, groin, and it's not just their protection, it's our protection as well. So we have certain areas that we can use, like pressure points, which are, near the ear, near the chest areas if they're not giving up their hands. In this case, George Floyd was in handcuffs, so he wasn't much of a threat Um, like I said, I don't like backseat driving as a police officer. I definitely don't like telling him what he could do after the fact. But in this case, there were so many other options he had, especially if he was handcuffed. So our training prevents us from, like I said, putting knees to the neck. We do use tactics to get the hands free. And like I said, his hands were already free, so this has nothing to do with that. Usually, if we do need to use our knee or anything, it's when our life is our life is threatened. It's when they put us at harm and we need to do something to have them cooperate quickly. And even then, as soon as they're cooperative, that's when you release any type of pressure points or any type of action that you have on the perp until you have them in handcuffs.
Sure. What has been the fallout for you personally? And this is again several pronged, I guess, question. What's been the fallout for you as a police officer?
As a police officer, I love serving the community, and I want to continue to do that. But what's happening is people are taking small little moments that maybe bad police officers that you guys, so-called bad police officers that you say, and they post them on social media, and that's just a small itty-bitty piece of America and their police force. There are good, police officers out there that do great services and community service all day, every day, but you don't see that posted on social media. So these videos, they look, they make us look bad, and they set police officers back maybe 50, 100 years, and that can hurt my job, and this is my job. You also have those people that are taking advantage of the situation now, such as during these protests. I'm all for peaceful protests, but you also have those agitators or initiators that are in front, causing the riots to stir up, causing people to get riled up, and they're not there for any type of cause. They're just there to, get stuff started, and you can see that in, like, if you watch news videos or anything like that, where
people paying other people to
just out there yelling, yelling. I mean, just yelling, screaming, and trying to get people's attention, but then they're not there for a cause.
Right. What's been the fallout for you as a black man, pushing the 9 to 5, so to speak, out the window? You're walking down the street as a black man. What's been the fallout?
I don't think I've had much changes. I mean, I go from work, home, and then hanging out with my wife. Really, no really big changes. I mean, maybe that's where I live. Maybe that's just the community I keep. But I get questions from my friends about the events and how you could have did it different and all these things. But other than that, I don't have any other differences.
Gotcha. And so that'd be another question, I guess, is like, has there been more conversation amongst you and your friends, you and your family, about race tension, about being a police officer in the midst of all this? Has there been more conversation and dialogue?
Definitely being a police officer. I'll get videos sent from me from my friends. Just, they say, hey, can you watch this and then tell me what you would do, or what circumstances would you have to take on this person, and maybe what did this police officer do poorly in your mind, and we'll talk about that stuff. It's really nice to actually have that friendship to where you're able to talk about these police situations, and they have no idea how police officers perform their job at all. So that's actually the next part. I don't know if you're going to ask that question, but how the community can see the way that the police officers go to a scene, and how a quick second can turn from good to bad real quick.
Right. You said multiple people have sent you videos and stuff.
Yeah.
And one of the earlier conversations we had with Vanita, she mentioned that it can get exhausting after a while, like having those deep conversations, although they're super important. Has it been tiresome for you? Like you said, it's cool that we can have these conversations,
Yes.
but how's it been? Like, does it zap your energy? Are you cool with having these conversations? Like, you brought it up to have this conversation with me, and I was so pumped because like I really wanted to have it. Does it energize you or drain you?
I like having I like going to work and then coming home to my wife and talking about it. I think it's something to strive for. You want to, I don't know, in a way, make yourself and the people around you better every day. And I think talking about it actually makes me feel better because I want to know your side too. When I say you, I mean white side as well. Just how do you feel about it, and then I could tell you how I feel about it. And you don't have to be right. I don't have to be right. We can both be wrong. But it's your opinion, and we can talk about it, and it's a good conversation.
Isn't it crazy? It feels like in 2020 that's not allowed,
right,
for two different opinions to be heard. And hopefully these conversations are doing something about just either enlightening you, the viewer out there, or just allowing like folks like Dustin's voice to be heard, who are in a really precarious situation right now as a police officer who the world or the United States seems to be a little weary of right now, and a black man. So it's challenging right now, but these conversations hopefully are moving us ahead of where we were yesterday.
Right.
I'm gonna know a lot more today than I did yesterday. So hopefully we're viewing these videos and understanding them and hearing the words that are coming out of folks like this man's mouth. So you've just covered a lot here. What are one or two things that you could foresee being helpful in us taking the next step, like we just talked about, in this country, in our race relation discussion,
okay,
and then also in regards to police officers and our viewpoint of policemen and women?
I think talking about it is a big thing. I mean, not just going on social media and airing your point and then talking about it in the comments. I think actually sitting down in front of each other, and it doesn't have to be police officers. It can be white and black and yellow, Mexican, everything. Because there's a lot more cultures than just white, black in this America.
The rainbow.
Yeah, correct. The rainbow. Sitting down, talking about their culture. You're not going to see it every day. So the way I see it, when I went overseas to see Demi, which she lives in the Netherlands, you're seeing a new culture. It's just adding to how you feel, and it's kind of adding to who you are as a person. Like, hey, they do it this way. That's pretty cool. We do it this way. But you're not going, oh, that's wrong. But you're saying every culture is different, and that's kind of cool. I like the differences. As a police officer, I think, my actual police force, we actually sit down with the community, and we actually have community policing academy. So they come in and they kind of go through like a set of steps of how we handcuff, different types of scenes that you may go on, and they go to these little incidents to where we have police officers playing, suspects or just regular community, and you see these things and how they occur and how fast they can happen. Be it like if they got a fake gun in their waistband or a knife in their waistband or nothing, and they're just aggressive. It just shows them, like I said, how fast any type of incident can go from 0 to 60 real quick. And I think that teaches the community how police officers actually have to react, and I think that kind of gives them a little bit more knowledge instead of, hey, we go on scene and people get shot. That's not what happens.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. There's a whole world that we don't understand. It's like if I went to your job and followed you around, and you had one bad incident in the entire day where you were terrible to a customer, or the customer was terrible to you. That is not the entirety of your job, and that's not how it all works. But we see one moment of mace being sprayed out in a environment where there's protests going on and we just assume that the worst.
Right.
It's not always the case. So I guess we always try and leave this with a tangible thing that we can do to improve and move us forward. And I think you've given us a few for sure. Like discussions are super important. I think one of the things that you said is it's okay to have your own opinion. And diversity is what makes this country amazing.
Right.
And so if you said the Netherlands does things one way, we do it a different way. It's okay to have two different sets of opinions or two different ways that we can do things. And just clicking that dial in your brain to realize that. And especially with the political season coming up, guys, oh my God, it's going to be terrible. I know what's going to happen. It's going to be a whole lot of mudslinging, a whole lot of this person's terrible, you're terrible if you believe this, you're terrible if you believe that. Why don't we just all agree to disagree and be okay? Like, we can have our own opinions. Vote for the person you want to vote for, and that's cool. To a point, if you need to use social media, I guess, then do it lovingly. For the love of God and everyone's eyes who has to read it. Please.
That's true.
But I really appreciate what you stand for. Being a police officer is really being a servant to the community. And our communities need it. So those areas in this country who are talking about disbanding police forces and stuff, like, I don't know what that looks like, and I'm not going to speculate, but I can only imagine what would be the fallout of that. I think we need to appreciate and value the good cops and the bad police officers. There's always going to be one or two. Hopefully they'll get weeded out with all the new spotlight that has been put on this. But I appreciate you for serving our community and for being a man who's willing to have a meaningful conversation about race, about your job, and about the sticky subjects in life. So thank you so much, Dustin.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Appreciate you. Hopefully you guys learned something. Talk to you later.